Hi, poetry lovers. My name is Bella. Welcome to my channel, Bella Poetry Presents. My channel contains 4 series of poetry. The first series is called The Victorian Female Poets of the 19th Century, and the series are very interesting because it presents fascinating lives of the Victorian female poets and what inspired them to write beautiful poetry that they did. The second series is called The Best Love Poetry, and in this series I introduce the listeners to stories and the poetry of poets, well-renowned world poets, both female and male, and their amazing love poetry, according to my opinion. Now, some of you may think that they're not the best, so I would love if you can share in the comments the poems that you like better. And in our third series, we discuss the lives and the poetry of wonderful Russian poets of the Silver Age. And because sometimes the translations are not particularly good, I read the poetry both in Russian and in English. So please check these 3 series out. A lot to learn and a lot of wonderful poetry to enjoy. In this 4th series, which is titled Poetry at Random, I explored and picked up various poets that are not so well known, that most of them are women, female poets. And again, I am going to tell you about their lives and the inspiration for their poetry. I personally like these poets. I would like to hear your impressions. Please subscribe, like if you like, and leave your comments in the comment section so that I can learn about your taste in poetry and what do you prefer and what do you think about the poets that I introduced to you on this channel. Now, in the first segment of this series, we discussed the life and the poetry of Polish poet Wisława Szymborska. Then we discussed the life and the poetry of a Scottish poet, Carol Ann Duffy. And in our third segment, we talked about poetry of an Irish poet, Evan Aisling Boland. And today we will discuss the life and the poetry of an American female poet whose name is Louise Gluck. I hope I pronounced her last name correctly. So let's start talking about her. So Louise Elizabeth Gluck was an American poet and an essayist. She won the 2020 Nobel Prize in Literature, whose judges praised her unmistakable poetic voice that with austere beauty makes individual existence universal. Her other awards include the Pulitzer Prize, National Humanities Medal, National Book Award, National Book Critics Circle Award, and Ballinger Prize. From 2003 to 2004, she was the Poet Laureate of the United States, which is a great honor. Thematically, her poems have illuminated aspects of trauma, desire, and nature. Gluck served as the Fredericks Eisman Professor in the practice of poetry at Yale University and as a professor of English at Stanford University. Louise Gluck was born in New York City on April 22, 1943. She was the elder of 2 surviving daughters of Daniel Gluck, a businessman, and Beatrice Gluck, a homemaker. Louise's mother was of Russian Jewish descent, and her father was born in the United States. In her childhood, Gluck's parents taught her Greek mythology and classical stories such as the life of Joan of Arc, and she began to write poetry at a very early age. As a teenager, Gluck developed anorexia. She described the illness in one essay as the result of an effort to assert her independence from her mother. During the fall of her senior year at George W. Hewlett High School in Hewlett, New York, she began psychoanalytical treatment. She spent the next 7 years in therapy, which she credited for helping her in overcoming her illness and also teaching her how to think. As a result of her condition, Gluck did not enroll in college as a full-time student. She described her decision to forego higher education in favor of therapy as necessary. My emotional condition, she wrote, my extreme rigidity of behavior and frantic dependence on ritual made other forms of education impossible. Instead, she took a poetry class at Sarah Lawrence College, and from 1963 to 1966, she enrolled in poetry workshops at Columbia University School of General Studies, which offered courses for non-degree students. While attending poetry workshops, Gluck began to publish her poems, and her first publication was in Mademoiselle magazine, followed soon after by Poems and Poetry magazine, The New Yorker, The Atlantic Monthly, The Nation, and other venues. After leaving Columbia, Gluck supported herself with secretarial work. She married Charles Hertz Jr. in 1967. In 1968, Gluck published her first collection of poetry called Firstborn, which received some positive critical attention. In 1971, when she began to teach poetry at Goddard College in Vermont, the poems she wrote during this time were collected in her second book of poetry titled The House on Marshland, that was published in 1975, which many critics have regarded as her breakthrough work, signaling her discovery of her distinctive voice. In 1973, Gluck gave birth to a son who she named Noah, with her partner Keith Munley, who helped raise him for the first 2 years of his life. Her marriage to Charles Hertz Jr. had ended in divorce, and in 1977 she married John Drano, an author who had started the summer writing program at Goddard College. In 1980, a fire destroyed Gluck's house in Vermont, resulting in the loss of most of her possessions. In the wake of that tragedy, Gluck began to write the poems that would later be collected in her award-winning work, The Triumph of Achilles, which was published in 1985. In 1984, Gluck joined the faculty of Williams College in Massachusetts as a senior lecturer in the English department. While the 1990s brought Gluck's literary success, it was also a period of a personal hardship. Her marriage to John ended in divorce also in 1996. After joining the faculty of Yale, Gluck continued to publish poetry. Her books published during the period include Averno, published in 2006, A Village Life, published in 2009, and Faithful and Virtuous Night, published in 2014. And in October, as I said before, as I mentioned before, in October 2020, Louise Gluck was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature. And in 2023, she was appointed a professor of English at Stanford University, where she taught the creative writing program. Gluck died from cancer at home in Cambridge, Massachusetts on October 13th, 2023, at the age of 80. And we will read today two poems by Louise Gluck. The first one is called First Memory. Long ago, I was wounded. I lived to revenge myself against my father, not for what he was, for what I was from the beginning of time in childhood. I thought that pain meant I was not loved. It meant I loved. The second poem is called Happiness. A man and a woman lie on a white bed. It is morning. I think soon they will waken. On the bedside table is a vase of lilies. Sunlight pools in their throats. I watch him turn to her as though to speak her name, but silently, deep in her mouth. At the window ledge, once, twice, a bird calls, and then she stirs. Her body fills with his breath. I open my eyes. You're watching me. Almost over this room, the sun is gliding. Looking at your face, you say, holding your own close to me to make a mirror. How calm you are, and the burning wheel passes gently over us. That's her poem. And the last one is called, the last one that I'll read to you is called Confession. To say I am without fear, it wouldn't be true. I am afraid of sickness, humiliation. Like anyone, I have dreams, but I've learned to hide them, to protect myself from fulfillment. All happiness attracts the fate's anger. They are sisters, savages. In the end, they have no emotion but envy. So the poems are abstract, kind of abstract, and you definitely can either apply them to yourself or understand them in relation to her life. And if you want to know more about it, you can definitely explore her life in more detail. Thank you very much for listening and visiting Bella Poetry Presents. Hope to see you next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.